Tropical storm warnings are out for the Caribbean islands. Good evening, I'm Mike Nasa with the latest tropical video update here on YouTube. Hurricane season 2021, we're getting closer and closer to the most active time. We are now approaching mid-August, and as you can see, we have a potential tropical cyclone affecting the islands of the Caribbean. Now, just to lay it on the line for you, a couple of years ago, the National Hurricane Center in Miami started to experiment with the idea of, if we have a system that's probably going to be a tropical storm, and you'll need tropical storm watches and warnings, but it's not yet a tropical storm, how could you issue advisories and issue those warnings? So they figured out, they issue advisories on a potential tropical cyclone so that they could put out the warnings, and then once it gets a name, it gets a name. So we have a potential tropical cyclone moving into the Caribbean islands and tropical storm warnings out for those areas. Now let's take a look at the latest. This is as of 11 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, which is also Eastern Time, by the way, from the National Hurricane Center on potential tropical cyclone 6. Where we think there would be a center forming would be about 15.1 north, 60.8 west, winds of about 35, so a tropical depression strength, getting close to tropical storm force winds, moving west-northwest at 16, and the pressure's very high, 1,010 millibars. And you can see the forecast right now does have it moving on off towards areas of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. And because of that, and because it'll probably become a tropical storm overnight or early on Tuesday, we have a tropical storm warning for Puerto Rico, including Culebra and Vieques, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Dominican Republic on the south coast eastward, and the north coast from Cabo Frances Viejo eastward. We also have a tropical storm watch for Martinique and Guadeloupe, Dominica, Saba, St. Eustatius, the north coast of the Dominican Republic to the Haiti border, and Haiti from the northern border of the Dominican Republic to Gonaives. Now, all of these areas of the Lesser and Greater Antilles are under the threat of tropical storm conditions, because as you can see, this is expected to become a named storm. The next name, by the way, is Fred, and it is expected to move very nearer over Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic by Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. After that, it looks to continue towards the west-northwest under a ridge of high pressure, and we will eventually see some type of curve here in the general direction of Florida and the Bahamas. But again, we don't even have a center yet, so this is all just speculative. But it is fun to speculate, and it is fun to overlook your hurricane plans just in case. Now, let me show you the latest satellite imagery, and this is a nighttime microphysics satellite imagery, and you can tell there is a spin in here. It's trying to get a little better organized, but I'm telling you, it's not closed off yet, and we kind of have a half a storm. It's dealing with a little bit of dry air. That seems to be its main inhibitor right now. It's moving, 15, 16 miles per hour? Remember Hurricane Elsa in July? That thing was moving like 25, 30. So this is moving at half the speed that was, which will help it develop over the next 24 hours. You can see some of the islands. This is Dominica right here, and then this one shaped like a butterfly is Guadeloupe, and then this would be Martinique to the south. So you guys in the islands, you're going to get tropical storm force wind gusts for sure and heavy rains. So there's very little difference between a tropical storm of 40 miles an hour and a tropical wave of 40 miles an hour. It just won't have a name yet, but it'll probably get one over the next 6 to 12 hours. Now, here's some of the computer model guidance, the GFS. You can see most of them are in good agreement, nearer over Puerto Rico, the Dominican, and then right along the north coast of Cuba in the direction of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, the European ensembles are a little bit further north. They take it over Puerto Rico, kind of scraping the Dominican, more into the southern Bahamas, Turks, Caicos, and then up towards the areas there of South Florida and the Keys. So this does bear watching, okay? This is the H-Wharf model, and as I put it into motion, you can see it does bring our system all the way up to hurricane strength south of Puerto Rico by Wednesday, and then you can see it's a pretty tightly coiled Category 1 hurricane, makes landfall in the Dominican Republic. Now, we call that Shredderola. Hispaniola, we hurricane fanatics call that Shredderola, because it totally shreds tropical cyclones. You can see it is forecast to weaken by the H-Wharf model down to a tropical storm, tropical depression, but then it comes right back over the Florida Straits, and look at that, a tight, nasty little hurricane that slams into the Florida Keys by Saturday. That's the H-Wharf model, and that's why we have to keep an eye on it, because it is August, and we don't know if that's what's going to happen with this potential tropical cyclone. Here's the wind shear map, and you can see very favorable high pressure aloft. See this clockwise right over the top of it? That's an anticyclone. It's high pressure aloft, very, very favorable ventilation. So the wind shear appears very favorable right over the top of it. Might have a little bit to deal with around, say, 70 west around Hispaniola, but then it should have a pretty good upper level environment in the Bahamas near Florida. And then the water temperatures, look at this. No problems here. They're hotter and hotter, and they only get hotter in the Straits of Florida. So the upper level environment and the ocean waters don't seem to be that bad. It just has a little bit of dry air, especially at the mid-levels right now, and we have to deal with that. And then the potential for land interaction. And again, we don't know. If it stays over Puerto Rico, over the Dominican, over Cuba, it's going to remain very, very weak until it spits out further south or further north. If, however, it tightens up and kind of skirts the coastlines and spends a long time over water, we could have a more serious situation down the line. You just got to keep an eye on it. Here's the key messages as of 11 p.m. on Monday night with this potential tropical cyclone. Number one, the system is forecast to become a tropical storm as it moves through the Leeward Islands tonight, and those tropical storm conditions are possible. And they're also expected for the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico Tuesday afternoon, the Dominican by Wednesday, and northern Haiti by late Wednesday. Number two, heavy rainfall. You could have flash urban small stream flooding and potential mudslides across the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. The greatest threat for flooding across eastern and southeastern portions of Puerto Rico. Remember Hortense back in '96? Well, some of you younger guys might not remember that. It was a minimal hurricane, but it flooded Puerto Rico. Those areas, it doesn't take a strong system to drop heavy, heavy rain, so you want to be careful. Number three, there is a risk of wind and rainfall elsewhere in Hispaniola, the Turks, Caicos, the Bahamas, and Cuba later this week, although that is more uncertain than usual because it's still in the formative stages. Interest in this area should monitor. And finally, interests in the Bahamas and Florida need to monitor updates to the forecast for this system, but it is too soon to determine what, if any, impacts could occur by late this week or the weekend, given the uncertainty. Okay? So we're going to watch that very, very carefully. There's another look at it, and you can see it's definitely got that curvature. We're just waiting for that wind to close off. We need a low-level center, so you got to have a west wind, and that will close off a low-level circulation, and it would become a tropical depression or a tropical storm. As mentioned, if and when it becomes a storm, it will be the F storm by the name of Fred. Looking out there past our potential Fred, you can see off Africa there's a pretty good wave. Some of the computer models like this, so keep an eye on this one. And then there's more activity brewing over Africa. This is where a lot of our systems start. Even systems that start in the Gulf might have come from an African wave. It is just amazing to think that way out here near the Red Sea and the Nile River, you get these thunderstorms that make that track all the way across Africa, come out and then become hurricanes that make it all the way to Brownsville, Texas, or Portland, Maine. It's really, really remarkable when you think about it. Eastern Pacific, we have our two storms. This is Kevin out here. Kevin is weakening and moving on off towards the west, away from land, some high swells for the Baja. And this system has a high chance for development, and if that becomes a storm or a hurricane, it'll likely move away from land as well, and that next name would be Linda. We're getting really far down the name list in the Pacific, like we did last year in the Atlantic. The Atlantic, still waiting for an active season, and we're getting towards the heart of that, and we could have our storm in the next couple of days. So that'll do it for the tropics tonight. I just want to keep you guys updated. Those tropical storm warnings for the islands of the Caribbean. If you're in Florida, the Bahamas, and the Haiti, Cuba, keep an eye. We're going to watch this system. It's still in the formative stages right now. I'm Mike Naso, and I will talk to you guys next time.